The cold air carried the smell of wet earth, burned fuel, and smoke. Dawn had barely broken over the narrow country road as 6 dark shapes stood silently among shattered trees. Their thick armor had failed them. Their guns were silent. Their engines would never start again. Every one of them was a Panther tank. German soldiers who reached the battlefield later could not understand what they were seeing. The road was too narrow for a large American armored force. There were no signs of a massive attack, no destroyed Sherman platoon, no line of anti-tank guns. Just 6 Panthers knocked out across less than 500 meters of road. One question spread through every surviving crew. Who did this? The answer sounded impossible. A small American light tank. The kind German crews joked about only hours earlier. Imagine standing inside a vehicle so small that many enemy tankers believed it was barely worth aiming at. Your armor could not survive a direct hit. Your main gun looked tiny compared to the long, deadly barrel of a Panther. Every military manual would tell you to avoid a fight like this at all costs. Yet sometimes battle ignored every manual ever written. At 7:10 that morning, the little tank rolled into a forest road covered by heavy mist. Visibility changed every few seconds. Sometimes the crew could see 200 meters, sometimes only 20. The commander knew that poor visibility was their only real advantage. If the Panthers found them first, the battle would end before it truly began. The driver kept the speed low. Every broken branch under the tracks sounded louder than normal. The gunner searched every gap between the trees. The loader stayed ready beside stacks of ammunition. Nobody inside spoke more than necessary. Then came the sound. An engine. Not one engine. Several, heavy, slow. German, the commander, raised his binoculars just enough to see through the morning fog. A dark outline appeared between the trees. Then another. Then another. Panther tanks were moving in column, believing the road ahead was clear. The odds were impossible, but impossible battles sometimes belonged to the side that stayed calm the longest. The commander pointed toward a shallow rise overlooking the road. The driver understood immediately. Instead of waiting beside the road, the little tank climbed onto higher ground where branches and bushes helped hide its position. The first Panther continued forward. Its turret faced the wrong direction. The crew believed the forest was empty. The American gunner waited. Not yet. Not yet. The commander watched the distance close. Finally, he gave the order. The gun fired. The shell struck the rear section of the leading Panther. Smoke burst from the engine compartment. Flames followed only seconds later. The narrow road instantly became blocked. Everything changed. German crews suddenly searched in every direction. Their greatest strength, long-range firepower, disappeared inside confusion. They could not clearly identify where the shot had come from. The little tank reversed before anyone could answer. It disappeared behind another line of trees. For the next few minutes, the battle became a deadly game of movement and patience. Every minute mattered. Every second decided whether the crew would live or die. The Germans believed they were hunting a weak opponent. Instead, they had entered a trap built from terrain, timing, and courage. The burning Panther at the front of the column filled the narrow road with thick black smoke. Within seconds, visibility dropped even further. What had begun as an easy advance suddenly became confusion. German commanders shouted for their crews to spread out, but the forest left them almost no room. Trees pressed against both sides of the road. Large Panther tanks could not easily leave the muddy track without risking getting stuck. The American commander understood exactly what was happening. He knew he could never win by trading shots in the open. Every move had to come before the Germans expected it. As soon as the first shell was fired, the driver backed the light tank behind another patch of trees. The engine stayed at low speed to avoid drawing attention. The crew listened carefully. Every sound carried through the forest, tracks grinding over mud, engines revving, metal clanking against branches. Somewhere ahead, German crews were trying to locate an enemy that seemed to disappear after every shot. Several minutes passed without firing. The waiting became almost unbearable. The loader kept another armor-piercing round ready. The gunner stared through his sight without blinking. The commander slowly raised his binoculars above the bushes. Another Panther had moved around the burning wreck, exposing its side for only a few seconds. That was enough. The second shot cracked through the morning air. The shell struck the thinner side armor near the engine compartment. Sparks flew before a sheet of orange flame burst from the rear deck. The Panther rolled only a few meters before stopping. Smoke poured from every hatch. Another powerful German tank was out of the fight. Now, panic began replacing confidence. German crews no longer believed they faced a full American armored force. They could not understand how a single hidden gun kept appearing from different directions. Some believed several tank destroyers were waiting inside the woods. Others thought American infantry had surrounded the road with anti-tank weapons. The American crew used that uncertainty as their greatest weapon. The commander refused to stay in one position. Every successful shot was followed by another move. The driver guided the little tank through narrow gaps that a larger vehicle could never use. Low branches scraped across the turret. Mud covered the tracks. The suspension groaned over tree roots. Inside the cramped fighting compartment, nobody complained. Every meter gained meant another chance to survive. The third opportunity came when one Panther slowly rotated its turret toward the burning wrecks instead of toward the hillside. The commander immediately recognized the mistake. Before the German gunner could complete the turn, another shell left the American gun. The impact echoed through the forest. The Panther shuddered to a halt. Its crew abandoned the vehicle as smoke rose from the engine deck. 3 enemy tanks were now disabled. The battlefield had completely changed. Only 30 minutes earlier, the German column believed it controlled the road. Now every surviving crew hesitated before moving. Every shadow looked dangerous. Every patch of trees seemed to hide another American tank. You can almost feel the silence that followed each shot. Birds had disappeared from the forest long ago. Only engines and distant artillery disturbed the cold morning air. Every member of the American crew knew the next mistake would probably be their last. One direct hit from a Panther's powerful 75mm gun would tear through their light armor with ease. The commander checked the remaining ammunition. It was disappearing faster than anyone liked. Every shell now had to count. The Germans finally attempted a coordinated search. 2 Panthers advanced together while infantry spread through the woods. It was exactly the response the American commander feared. Fighting both armor and infantry at close range would remove every advantage his small tank still possessed. He ordered another withdrawal. The driver carefully reversed down a shallow slope before turning behind a group of pine trees. The movement took barely a minute, but it completely changed the angle of the battlefield. When the leading Panther finally appeared, it exposed its side while searching the previous firing position. The gunner did not hesitate. Another armor-piercing shell slammed into the side of the German tank. The explosion shook nearby trees. 4 Panthers were now burning. The surviving German crews answered with heavy fire. High explosive rounds blasted apart tree trunks. Branches crashed onto the forest floor. Dirt and splinters rained across the American tank. One explosion came so close that the entire vehicle rocked violently. Dust filled the fighting compartment. For a terrifying moment, nobody knew whether they had been hit. The commander quickly checked every crew member. Everyone was still alive. The engine still worked. The mission continued. Time was running short. More German forces could arrive at any moment. The commander knew staying too long meant certain destruction. Yet leaving now would allow the remaining Panthers to continue their advance. He made one final decision. Instead of retreating, the crew circled through another section of woodland to attack from an unexpected direction. It was risky, but surprise had already become their greatest ally. The 5th Panther came into view through drifting smoke. Its turret still faced the old firing position. The crew inside had no reason to expect danger from behind. The American gun fired. The shell struck. Flames erupted almost immediately. The commander barely had time to celebrate before another Panther appeared farther down the road. This one had finally identified the source of the attack. Its turret swung toward the little tank. Everything slowed. The German gun barrel stopped. The American gunner squeezed the trigger first. Both crews fired almost together. The forest exploded with smoke and thunder. For several endless seconds, nobody inside the American tank knew what had happened. The commander looked around quickly. The driver was safe. The loader was safe. The gunner was already searching through the smoke. Then they saw it. The last Panther stood motionless. Fire escaped from its engine compartment. The German shell had missed by only a few meters, tearing apart the hillside behind them instead. The 6th Panther had fallen. Silence slowly returned to the forest. No cheering filled the little tank, only exhausted breathing. The commander knew they had survived by skill, teamwork, careful movement, and more than a little luck. Against heavier armor, thicker guns, and greater numbers, they had relied on timing instead of strength. As the crew finally withdrew toward friendly lines, smoke continued rising above the trees. Behind them remained 6 destroyed Panthers and a battlefield that would leave everyone asking the same question. How could such a small American tank stop one of Germany's most feared armored formations? The answer was never about the size of the machine. It was about the people inside it. World War II proved again and again that courage alone could not win a battle. But courage, guided by discipline, patience, and smart decisions, could change history in the most unexpected places. Long after the smoke cleared, veterans remembered that lonely forest road. They remembered the day confidence turned into confusion, when the vehicle many had dismissed as a toy became the last thing 6 Panther crews ever saw. On that cold morning, steel mattered, firepower mattered, but the will to think faster than the enemy mattered even more. That is why this battle lived on in memory long after the guns fell silent.